So I have a question. So when you look under goals and it says increase literacy for birth through third grade, what's that looking like? Or,
We'll talk about that.
oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two aspects to the early literacy grant, and there's Bill, I mean, Arturo will,
Oh,
and if
okay.
not, I can talk about it, but yeah.
Yeah, it sounds.
Well, I don't want to waste any time.
We're getting there.
Well, we're very excited that the governor's top priority was passed. I think it's going to do great things for our students. The Early Literacy Success Initiative is, as the goals are up top, they're really focused on birth to third grade, which will allow us to maximize those resources and shift other resources, right, to the upper elementary grades as well. But the timeline for accessing these funds, it doesn't open until December 1st. So beginning in October, we'll get more guidelines. We'll be able to, the application portal opens December 1st and applications are due January 8th as of right now. We're really excited. We really want to take our time and plan for this. What we don't want to do is not maximize these funds. What we don't want to do is to continue to do the same thing and get the same result. And so our plan is to, over the next couple months, we're going to bring key stakeholders together. We're already started those invitations today and really get our best minds in our community with specific teacher leaders, all thinking and talking about how do we maximize these resources to support our students, and not just K-3, although these funds are targeted for K-3. We also have existing reading specialists and other positions that we want to be able to think, how do we look at these more holistically and be able to maximize their services for students. And so that is going to take some time for us to develop. So that long-term planning is happening. And then our short-term plan is to begin to implement our literacy adoption well, which we know has gone over pretty good in terms of teacher feedback. But also how are we implementing that, and how are we serving some of our most our highest need readers, which we know we need to do more of. And so we are working on that simultaneously as well, and being able to support them.
Then to answer your question, Kate, on the right-hand side there, you'll see tribal grants, community grants, school district grants, and birth through 5 plan. So the money that we're getting is in the school district grants, and we'll create programming K through 3. There's another thing as part of this, we need to create a birth to 5 plan of how we're engaging parents in and educating them around what needs to happen with regard to literacy when they're 2, when they're 3. So there's a whole other aspect to this besides just what we're doing in the school district.
Yeah, because when I saw birth, I was thinking about what they do in Europe and also in other countries, you know, right on the onset of once that baby's born, there's a whole team in play, and how they nurture that, and also how, you know, our enrollment is down at kindergarten. So can we start some partnerships when the children are 2 and the parents 2, 3, 4?
Love that. Yeah, hence that idea of really broadening our scope and getting stakeholders, experts throughout the community, throughout our county, to come in and reimagine. Like we got to maximize this tremendous resource, and we've got to be able to get outside of our normal practices.
This slide is about PERS update, and it doesn't particularly go through one Senate bill or House bill, but just a few updates and things that we want to have on our radar for PERS in the upcoming biennium. And it looks like with this legislative session that they did fund the employer incentive plan, where we took advantage of it a couple of years ago and had a match, and it was matching grant. I think ours was about $3.5 million that we created a side account for to reduce our future PERS liability. This is something, if it does come out again, we would be looking at trying to take advantage of another side account to continue to reduce our future PERS liability and our future PERS rates. So we'll be watching this very closely in the upcoming weeks to see what that process is going to look like. The next one is just a heads up. Most of the side accounts that are out there for districts were all created the same year, back around 2010. Ours was about $30 million that we created for a side account back then, and ours will be expiring in 2027 along with most others. So what that's going to do is our debt's going to fall off for the repayment of that side account, but our rates are going to increase. So we'll see a shift in the way we're budgeting, and it could change our total liability at that time. PERS at the state level is looking at how that's going to impact them, how it's going to impact rates for districts, and how they're going to move forward with that. We won't see this impact until 2027, but it is something that we are currently watching and trying to figure out how this is going to look for us. The projected 25-27 rates will be released this fall. And so we'll have a view of what the next biennium's rates are going to be to start planning for that. And then the work back period has been extended to 2034. And that is also to reduce the statewide unfunded liability. So just updates on PERS.
Yeah, I get the fun one. This is a really tough one to do in one slide. Just give you a little context. In special education, we have a placement process for students, and prior to this school year, IEP teams, along with parents as a part of that team, were able to come together and based on a variety of factors, whether that be medical or behavioral, could say that the student needed to be on less than a full school day. And this only applied to students on IEPs. So there was a process around it, which is our typical process to protect students. This law expands the definition of who is considered an abbreviated day, and it expands to students on 504s. So any student that's identified with a disability or any student in the referral process. It also puts into place a lot of compliance to the point that the superintendent must review any students who are placed on abbreviated school days every 90 days. There are some consequences to not being in compliance with this. It's a complaint-driven process, which means that there's no OARs. So we can interpret this law however we feel fit and how our legal counsel provides support to us. So basically now we will have to get consent from parents. So this is one thing. In Oregon, we do not have to get consent for placement decisions made by the district or placement team. But this is one aspect where this will be a placement option, but the parent will have to provide informed written consent. And if they don't, we will have to make sure that student gets a full school day, and there's details surrounding around that. The impact for us is really just a lot of work. In our district, to give you a scope, prior to this year, students in special education, we had no more than 6 kids on an abbreviated school day at any one point during the school year. So very, very few kids. This will expand the definition. So this could impact our counselors, our administrators, special ed teachers, just in terms of additional process, a lot of forms. I'm sure Kate remembers all those things in special education. So that's really the impact that we see. And I'm happy to give you more information if you want it, but it's a pretty complex piece of legislation. Is anything, Dave?
No, I think they're still figuring this out. There's a lot still to come out from this. And it just seems to have a lot of spreading tentacles that's the part that we're worried about. It's just how far this thing is going. We haven't traditionally used a lot of these kinds of schedules, but it keeps getting broader. So a lot of rulemaking, well, no rulemaking, a lot of guidance, I think, still to come on this.
Okay, one of the major bills passed effective July 31st, 2023 is the educator workforce package that will be passed in June. basically creates a statewide job portal and workforce study. And there's timelines that are set out for that. The statewide job portals through TSPC and ODC. The workforce study is through ODC. And what they're going to be surveying our teachers and licensed staff are their experiences. And how can we enhance, staff experiences statewide. It also allows for pay differential for special education staff. It also states that staff schedules are minimum 5 hours a day, unless it's voluntary, and classified just cause protections were put in place with this. So we're negotiating with our OSCA union on this. How does that look like so that we're compliant with the new law?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What, 5 hours a day? What does that mean?
According to Brian Hungerford, our attorney, what he said is it has to be voluntary. It's special education staff are willing to work less than 5 hours. By his interpretation of the law is if we post a job for 4 hours and people apply for it and accept the job, then we are compliant with the law. What that means is anybody over 5 hours, you can't reduce below that.
Oh, I see. So, okay. I got it.
It doesn't really,
Doesn't have it current.
doesn't really impact us.
Yeah,
But all these are basically helping educators stay in the field, track in the field. How can we enhance educators in the state of Oregon because there is a shortage?
you're gonna differentiate, hey, that's a contractual thing that you're gonna have to negotiate.
Yeah.
So,
It allows for it, it doesn't require.
At first, they wanted to require a pay differential for any sped teachers or sped IAs, that the minimum salary or the minimum hourly wage was a certain level. And so this is where the law ended up, is that now it allows districts to have that pay differential. It doesn't mandate a minimum pay.
so there's not a lot of teeth.
Right, it's voluntary, yeah. And then establishes task force to review standards and options for sub teachers, again, statewide. Everyone's concerned about the number of substitute teachers that are available, as well as a statewide educator salary schedule. Again, those are task force that have been created to study that. As we know, Washington has a statewide salary schedule, but recruiting in Tacoma, at the Tacoma Job Fair, we went around every booth, and basically what it does is it establishes a minimum, a floor, but there were just as wide salary differences between school districts as there are here. We noticed the high end in one district in particular was 99,000, the top of the pay scale, and another district, Kent, was $127,000.
For a special ed teacher?
Regular teachers, that was their salary schedule.
Regular ed.
So I was just, it just kind of, I was interpreting that, okay, the whole state's gonna have this, no, that's the floor in terms of salaries. And then each school district can determine, a different place. At least that's how it's working in Washington. So a lot of discussions on what's working in Washington and how can we, again, attract more educators to the field of education.
John, the classified just cause protections, it also changed something about probation. And so we're still trying to figure out, there's still some real challenges, but it eliminated probation
Yes.
for probationary status for our classified employees. So we're still trying to figure out what that means. So but that part of this has an impact for us.
Why? Why would they do that?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure how you do that legally. So that's why there's lots of stuff. This happened on June, whatever, and everybody's still trying to come to grips with what some of this might mean.
So is this a proposal or is this already,
It's,
it's
Yeah.
done? So explain a little bit further, classified just cause protections. I don't quite get it.
So basically that provides just cause, and they have to go through, dismissal steps, just like they would if they were permanent.
There's in the law, there's in just cause, there's a seven step test that you go through when you're taking adverse, employment action. And so this, some contracts had just cause built into it, others did not. There's still a process, but it wasn't this 7-step legal process. This, and I haven't actually read the whole law on this, but I think this is trying to establish that 7-step process for classified employees.
Don't we already have that?
For the most part, yes. I mean, you're still gonna, when you're taking employment action against somebody, you're gonna get your ducks in a row. You're gonna make sure that that's not actually the part that I think is the most challenging. This removal of a probationary period, I think, is a tremendously challenging idea for the organization. So, but those are all still going to get worked out legally because, again, the lawyers are like, what
happened?
What happened? So there's a lot of stuff to still figure out here. Sorry, John.
Oh, no, you're good. Thank you. And then statewide recognition for long-term subs. There's a substitute in a particular teaching assignment for a teacher. After 60 days, on the 61st day, they have temporary teacher status. They're no longer subs. So we can clearly move a teacher before the 61st day and then put them back in. But we just, an additional thing that we need to track.
Didn't we already have that?
We have some language in our contracts already around this.
Right.
This is just assuring that everybody in the state.
So we have several other, I don't have individual slides for these, I'll go over them kind of briefly. The first one is House Bill 2049. This is a cybersecurity advisory committee. It's going to be at PSU. And it's really going to be there to help public and private sectors in coordinating and providing education awareness and training around cybersecurity and grants. So this one might be an opportunity for us to take advantage of trainings or grant opportunities for it. House Bill 2281, Civil Rights Coordinator. This requires districts to identify a civil rights coordinator, and it will be a Division 22 requirement in the future. House Bill 2753, School Board.
Do we have to have a civil rights coordinator right now?
Not yet, but we will. We'll be bringing that to the board for approval as an action item here this fall, early winter. Right?
Yeah, I just went to an ODE training and they gave 3 slides and basically more information. They haven't worked out. They haven't caught up with the legislation.
A lot of this stuff is we're learning as we go.
Work in progress.
But the civil rights coordinator duties at the sign, right?
Yeah.
We're not hiring it.
No,
That's like.
Sorry.
Right.
It's stuff we're complying in already. I mean, we have the civil rights laws and rules that we're already following. It's really just solidifying somebody responsible.
I will say that I just received right before I came out here a dear colleague letter from the U.S. Department of Education of Civil Rights. And the dear colleague letters is usually they push those out to all school districts when they're about to make a change in or try to explain how they're doing something. I haven't had a chance to read it, but it's surrounding civil rights. And I'm sure it's a reaction to some of the things we're seeing across the nation regarding, so there's some bigger things at play too.
Okay. House Bill 2753, school board stipends. This one does allow school board members to now collect a stipend up to $500 a month. But what it also does is it requires school districts who don't pay the stipend to make sure that we are reimbursing our board members for costs that you're incurring while you're on duty as a school board member. So if you're going to a conference, we're paying the mileage, we're paying the per diem, we're paying the travel costs. If the board assigns a couple of members to go down to Salem, we're paying for those costs to go down to Salem. Not necessarily hourly rate, but the costs that you're incurring to go down there. So it does require us, and I believe in most of the travel you guys have done as school board members, we're already doing that work. But it does require districts to now do that. So, House Bill 2806, school board executive sessions. This expands the, it now allows school board members to have, executive sessions that are around safety concerns. Includes like cybersecurity, facility safety, staffing safety, or safety of the public body. So you do now have an okay to have a school executive session around those. And it's really, I believe in reading about it, it's really about, like, if we have cybersecurity risk or we have risk in our district, we're not going to announce that publicly because that could put us at even greater risk. Necessarily when we're around trying to problem solve, but still wanting to keep you guys in the loop on what is going on. So that's that one. And then the last one on here is PE minutes for middle school. This takes the current PE minute mandate from 225 minutes to 150 minutes. So it drops it down to allow for a lot of middle school schedules. We, at our current schedule, would not still meet that 150 minutes. But we're currently looking at right now how to creatively do that this year and implement next year, along with we're doing the NAMS renovations and remodel. That's going to create that outdoor PE space. So how do we potentially utilize PE in health, or how do we get creative with our schedules to be able to make sure that's happening? The summer, well, I guess it would be September 2024 starting. So I know they're starting to work on that. Any questions on this side? Okay. The last three are Senate bills. Senate Bill 3 is high school graduation requirements. Now in the state graduation requirements is a half a credit of personal finance. Love it. And a half a credit of higher ed or career pathway skills. So great things. They're just now mandated and required in the state graduation.
So then would it be for like starting as like freshmen this year have to have that personal finance or?
Don't know yet. It said effective January 1st, 24.
Usually that's how they phase that in, but.
And you'll see in later on, we have funds set aside in these increases to be able to do a half-time
I
personal.
feel like
finance
this
at the high
whole
school.
work session is, I'm gonna give you guys a lot of information, but don't have any questions because I have.
We have more coming.
Later to come.
Ask questions as we go.
Personal finance will be senior, junior, senior level course.
Right now, it's gonna be an elective.
Okay.
Karen just hired to measure 98, I believe, a 0.5 teacher, and they're kind of piling that.
Okay.
But yeah, they will likely embed it in a certain grade level.
Yeah, right.
Just to ensure they capture every level.
Yeah.
My guess would be junior or senior.
That's what I would.
Yeah, so that we're one.
Because that's where you're starting
They
to
should do
kind of
it
buy
senior
cars.
year.
Right.
Because junior year, they already have so much stuff going on.
Right.
Senior doesn't really have that much required stuff. English and,
Right.
you know, econ.
So it would be an elective? It
Well,
would be,
right now, it's gonna be elective for this fall, and they have quite a few students that have signed up for it, so they're excited about it. And we're just getting prepared for the new requirement coming in.
I would have had one ticket.
Oh,
not yet.
that's under process.
All right. The next one on here is the ADA closed captioning, was one that I hadn't heard of in any of my meetings that I've been around, but is going through the legislative update that's linked earlier. I was kind of an aha. That I wanted to make sure we as a district and we make sure our administrators know and everybody is aware that moving forward on any TVs that we have in public open areas, so in our fronts of our schools or in the cafeterias or any of those public entries or public areas. Anytime that we have voices, people talking, needs to have ADA closed captioning enabled on the TV. It has to be enabled on the TV. So that was one that was kind of a surprise to me that I hadn't seen or heard about that, but it's something definitely that we are working on, making sure that it is available to everyone.
Support is then,
That's what I'm wondering.
yeah, that's good. And, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
On Zoom, I think from the user end, you can throw on the, yeah, it'll do it on the fly, which is nice.
Good idea.
Oh, it's all good.
The last one here is procurement thresholds. And this one changes our procurement thresholds at the state level. So anything that we're spending with our general fund, certain grants. Now the procurement threshold is going from small procurement at 10,000 up to 25,000 for getting 3 quotes. And then intermediate procurement is 150,000. It's moving up to 250,000. So just difference in the way we have to do our procurement, and those thresholds are moving up. It does not change our board policy. Our board policy is still 50,000, needs to be approved by you guys. And our federal grants and bond funds and our nutrition services funds, those all remain where they're at right now. Those will not change with these updates. Small procurement is 5,000. Yeah, so small procurement is 5,000 with those grants and those funding sources, and that will not change. But other purchasing with our general fund, now we have a little bit of flexibility. That doesn't mean we wait until we have, until we hit 25,000 before we get 3 quotes. Best practice is still to make sure you are getting the best value for what you're doing. So, but just so you know that that change is happening. Right. Now, what you guys have been curious about is the impact to us. Our district specifically, we've been talking about the statewide impacts. Now looking at Forest Grove itself. So state school fund with the increase to a $10.2 billion compared to what we had budgeted, it's 2.6 million. It's a 4.9% increase over what our adopted budget was. High school success is actually a drop in what we had budgeted and projected. Initial estimates from the state came out and it was a 5% increase, and it actually went up only a percentage. So in the next couple of slides from now, you'll see that we made an adjustment and we shifted funds from SIA over to Measure 90, or from Measure 98 to SIA to be able to maintain our current services there. Student investment account went up by $1 million compared to the adopted budget with these additional resources through the close of the legislative session. And then the last bucket is our early literacy initiative. So that's that grant that we talked about earlier. And so when we're looking at balancing the budget, trying to figure and looking at what opportunities we have coming up, we have $4.1 million between these 4 categories.
So you took money from the student investment account, and you're gonna put it for the Measure 98 for the high school success.
Right, to maintain current services there.
Why did the student investment account go up so much? It was gonna be a -4, is that right? Or am I reading
No, it
that
went up
right?
20, but it went up 23%.
It went up 23%. It's
From where we budgeted.
from where we budgeted. We
Oh, okay, got
budgeted
it.
at a drop based on what we were hearing at the time.
I thought,
There was a bunch of tricky stuff that happened right near the end of this legislative session around the early literacy grant. And there were some news articles came out that it was at 140 million, and then it was at 80 million, and then it was, and in the end, the shift that kind of happened is they moved money away from the high school success grant to fund the early literacy, along with some other things they did. But that's part of what happened at the end there. but it was a substantial increase to the SIA account, and specifically I think part of their focus was not necessarily putting that in the general fund, but because of the SI grant is, for us, it's pointed at mental health, ELD, like those focuses they wanted to highlight and fund. So I think that's why you see a larger proportion in SIA. And I think this next, so we wanted to just talk about our focus kind of moving forward is there's some from our 9.9 budget, there were some obvious things that we had cut tightly to 9.9 billion, and there were some problems. We had the blended dilly. We had some other issues where if we have some money, we're going to go in and solve those right away. But there's a bigger amount of money here that we want to be planned and intentional about, which is in moving forward, we need to invest this in a very thoughtful way. First, again, we're going to solve the immediate problems that are going on, but we want to take some time. I know that there's are you doing the next one or am I doing it? The words. Okay, good. Oh, you switched them.
You got this one.
Okay. There's specifically the alignment to our strategic plan. We've got a whole bunch of work in there, and I'm going to go through the goals in a second. The budget, when we did the budget, there's a bunch of guidances that you and the budget committee members said, these are our goals. And the district visioning, we learned a lot from our interactions with the community about what they're looking for. And so as we're moving forward, again, we want to be planned and intentional in supporting those pieces.
So just to follow up with, when we went through our budgeting process in the spring, we wanted to make sure that everything that we were doing and our investments that we were making at that time tied in to our guiding principles. And we were thinking through our lens of our strategic plan and the guiding principles. And so tonight we just wanted to remind, these are the things that we have currently still on our top of our mind and what we're thinking about as we're thinking about these additional investments. And just remind everybody, it's budgeting systems targeted towards meeting the district strategic plan, making sure that we're maintaining lower class sizes. We're focusing on students graduating, all students graduating. We're providing supports to our underserved populations. Our focus is on mental and behavioral health. And we are being intentional to accelerate student learning to offset the pandemic. And then lastly, the financial sustainability, making sure that we're thinking long-term. So these are the things when we went through that budget process that were our guiding principles. And we want to make sure that we are continuing to look at these as we start to look at the additional investments from the legislative session.
And from our strategic plan, there's basically 4 goals and just simple. You all know there's a bunch of work underneath each of these, but it's just instruction and learning. So we've got some plans on how we're going to go through and define what great instruction looks like in the classroom and begin to fill out kind of the student attribute work that we did. Then the second goal is really around behavioral health and wellness. And again, the other thing that I think is interesting is even from the guiding documents that you have from the budget committee, there's a lot of things that are lining up here, mental health, ELL. Third one is family and student engagement. So we learned from our strategic planning that we need to engage our families in different ways. Lastly, it's create a resilient organization, and specifically it's around how do we recruit and retain workers. And then the second part of that is really, how do we begin to really do a better job measuring our budgeting to the accomplishment of these goals. Safety and security, thank you. I need to pull that one up. That's under goal number 4, the resilient organization. And we heard pretty loudly in the strategic planning process just around, there's lots of concerns around safety and security. Our bond is certainly already off and rolling and working on those issues. But we just wanted to highlight that one again as something that we need to be thinking about as we begin to invest these dollars.
All right, it was interesting, looking through these investments and these funds that we have available right now to be able to make progress towards our strategic plan. And I spent some time going through like our strategic plan, trying to figure out where do we need to look at identifying funds to set aside to be able to start making progress on that. And as I was looking through the strategic plan, there's a lot of work ahead of us. There's these are words that I pulled out. They're the first words in every, strategy: identify, develop, establish, create. There is a lot of work ahead of us, and we don't know what the result is going to be. Looking at our first goal, objective 1 for strategy: develop an aligned pre-K-12 instructional framework that describes what high-quality instruction is, what specific teaching modalities are expected, and how cultural relevance is addressed. And then there's just strategy after strategy after strategy after this, and then what that looks like, and how do we implement that in the schools? How do we define it? How do we implement it? How do we fund it, and whatever the outcome of is from that? And so in looking at these additional resources and this opportunity that we have right now, we do have funds set aside that is strictly for that. Like, we don't know quite how that's going to be spent at this time, because we have this work to do, and we want to be intentional about how we're utilizing those funds so that we're not spending right now and committing to things and then having to pull back in a year when we figure out, okay, this is what the plan looks like, this is what the instructional model is, and this is what our staff need as a result of it. So you'll see that in the next slide, that we do have stuff set aside. And like Dave said, we have hit go on several things that we know are immediate needs right now, but we also want to make sure that we're holding some so that we're being very tactful, and we are being very strategic about how we're investing those funds, so we're not having to backtrack later. It doesn't ever feel good to be giving and then saying, oh, I'm sorry, we got to take back. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing first. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that before going into what we have, what we're working on right now with these additional funds. Kind of blurry up there, so I'm sorry. You guys have this in front of you right now. We broke it out into the 4 buckets of our goals. Goal 1 is instruction and learning, creating that high quality instruction. Under that, we have our early literacy. That's the first line. We know all the way to the right that that grant is $436,000. We have $81,000 set aside in the student investment account. And then we have a placeholder in this general fund. As we're starting, we haven't developed a process yet. We haven't gone through the process to identify what this early literacy looks like, but we have done some what ifs. What if it looked like this? What if it looked like this? And we know right from the gate that $436,000 isn't enough. Based on if we were to do this well and we were to do it right, we need more than that. So we have $500,000 set aside so that we can implement a plan really well. Tag 40,000, ELD instruction 360,000. That is 3 FTE at the secondary levels. That was we knew that was a significant need coming out of the pandemic, and we had 1 at Tom McCall, 1 at Neil Armstrong, and 1 at high school temporary. And that was lost to this year with the loss of some of the ESSER funds. And so we know that that is still a major need, and we have already added that. Then we have investment in class size and options. Removing the blends, as Dave talked about earlier, 180,000. We have 2 FTE set aside for class size bubbles as we start seeing students in the butts in the seats come the first week of September. So we can help support where those bubbles come through, where we have a little influx coming in a certain grade band in a certain building. Alternative education, this is really the middle levels, supporting Tom McCall and Neil Armstrong in alt ed. Then we have high school options. There's 36,000 right there. That is for the personal finance. That's not the full cost of the 0.5 FTE, but that's what the high school needed to be able to add that into the high school success grant. Then what we have is goal 2, behavioral health and wellness. The first line, you'll see the counseling going down by 107,000 for high school success. That is the loss in really the gap between the counseling and the personal finance. That's the loss that the high school's seen. So they have a loss of 74,000. So we pulled out $107,000 for a 1.0 counselor and put that into SIA because that really aligns with the work SIA is doing. And then the difference is funding that personal finance. And then counseling under student investment account, you can see it goes up by 237,000. That is both the Measure 98 and an additional 1.0 for the high school. In looking at the high school and their counseling ratios, when we staffed the counseling ratios and we did all of the buildings when we implemented student success, we were looking at the high school consolidated with Calc. So all the Calc students plus the high school students, and then Calc's counseling plus the high school's counseling. Well, now when we separate them out into their own building and look at counseling for Calc and compared to the students and then high school as separate, the high school's ratio is off. And so this brings them down to just over the 250-to-1 ratio at the high school by adding that 1.0. And so that brings us back in alignment there. Building health supports. This is something that's been funded in ESSER for the last several years. And then these are the health IAs in all buildings. And this would bring that into the general fund to be able to be funded ongoing. So that we're not constantly hiring them every year as a temporary until we run out of funds. This brings it so it's a sustainable staffing.
So we're gonna do that for every building again?
Kind of. There's some of the larger buildings will get 1.0 and then we're moving them to.
It's a 0.5 for our elementaries, and then Tom McCall gets a little bit more. I don't remember the ratios.
Harvey Clark, Joseph Gale, and Tom McCall get 6.5 hour health IAs. The smaller elementaries get 0.5, so 4 hours.
And we're just gonna start budgeting for that now,
Yes,
because it's a big need. People really like it.
actually, it was, when talking to the principals, this turned out to be a big need for them. The diabetes is what's going through my head.
Yeah, so it's it's become pretty complicated. We have a lot of students in the district with medical conditions. And so it's nice to have someone in that health room dealing with all the other stuff too that comes in, like especially at recess and at the high school illness or, a number of things they might come in for. And it's something that we built in the budget for the high school a long time ago, and we're just slowly trying to build in more. It helps. During COVID, we really saw the need for someone to be more consistent in our health rooms. The amount of work that the secretaries are doing with all the medications, presented some challenges with inconsistencies. And so having a consistent person to be in charge of those things, obviously with backups, has been a huge benefit for us, so.
So they can give medicine? That's right, and then we're just gonna have one nurse for the whole district.
We have one RN, which we're required to have, and then we have one LPN, and they share the district. The RN does all the training, and then we have a health IA that kind of coordinates all the CPR, first aid, all the health IAs.
The next goal 3 is our goal around family and student engagement. We have 2 items here. One is the after-school athletics. There's an increase of 105,000 here. This is when we went through the budget process last year, the secondaries both really advocated for additional services and equipment. At the high school, the cost of officials have increased significantly over the last few years. We haven't changed our budget for it. At the middle school, their equipment needs some investments in, especially around some of our higher risk athletics and activities. And then it also does increase the number of stipends at the middle school for like cheer and cross country. And then it increases to fund lacrosse and water polo and girls wrestling at the high school. So this is both Neil Armstrong and the high school, $105,000 investment.
That's gonna be continuous every year.
Mhm.
We're gonna have this much more.
That would be the goal. But we have to budget every year, so.
How does it work? Like, do the kids from the community school get to do athletics at Neil Armstrong?
So, yes, I don't know how much of that we have going on, but there is some new legislation that happened the last time around. I want to say, I'd have to, I mean, I want to give you the right info, so I'll
Yeah,
look.
'cause I'm kind of curious, because the community school gets out at 3:30, and then athletics at NAM starts, I don't know, 2:45 or
Yeah.
3, or, so I was just kind of wondering how that would work. And I heard a rumor that last week they had tryouts for soccer at the middle school, and I'm like, they've never had tryouts at the middle school 3 weeks before school even starts, nor did families know.
Well, that was more what I heard, so I don't know, I'm gonna have to check.
I was
into,
like- I was like, I'm pretty sure if a kid comes in on the first day of school and wants to play soccer, then they get to play soccer.
Yeah.
But I
Well-
just thought, I was like, that was kind of, I don't know if that's true or not, or, but.
Well, I know our communication wasn't great, because the word that I got back is there wasn't a lot of folks there.
no
So
one knew.
just so you know what's going on with the middle school, which is we used to be in the Salem League. And we've now kind of negotiated into I don't know how, we were asked to not participate in that league anymore. And part of it had to do with the number of activities that we were willing to participate in. And so in moving to, we have a new league, they're asking us to participate in cross-country and in other activities. And so that's part of the increase in cost here, is because of, to be in this league, we need to field more of these teams. So we'll be working with, well, I'm gonna say it right now because it's applicable. So we did get the CLC grant again. So we have 5 years of funding. And so, again, being intentional about our investment, we want to sit down and meet and talk about what we did do and then what we might do. But again, this kind of comes into this whole piece about how are we engaging middle school kids and getting them involved in school.
Yeah, I mean, as the community schools too, then I think
Right.
that information should be shared with them when they are gonna have tryouts for the sport. You know, 'cause there might be kids that want to do cross country there. I mean, I don't know.
Right. I can't imagine that we're going to be shutting down kids who want to participate in the sport at middle school. So I'll double check on that because I can't imagine that that's going to be where we want to be.
Yeah, I mean,
And homeschool kids can do it.
oh yeah, most schools do. So that's why they need to get
Right.
you know, they need to get the information out, but to have perhaps 3 weeks before kids are even in the door. I mean, how would anybody know that? It was, I was like, they don't have grass then.
So I'll get the answer to that and I'll send it through to you so everybody knows.
Yeah, because I was saying, no way. It's not happening.
Well, that's not where we want to go with that. We want to get more kids involved.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the next one is under family and student engagement is our Family Resource Center. And looking at our strategic plan and looking what we already have moving and what we have going, this is one gap that we see that we need to start working on and start identifying what this looks like. So this is the cost of a classified FTE, but we are currently looking at the first year, probably a blend of development and staffing. But we still need to, this is one that we are still in development on, but we want to make sure that we're identifying budget to go towards it, since it is a big priority in our strategic plan. The next section is goal 4, and that's our resilient organization. The indirect rate is just the balancing for the indirect rate. the long-term resiliency, I'm gonna skip over for 1 second, then I'll come back to it. And then the next one down is creating safe school environments. We're looking at the middle levels. This does include increasing PAT to go up to 6.5 hours or 6 hours instead of 4 hours a day. The need and demand for his services and what the work that he's doing right now is really significant. So it does include increasing PAT or safety coordinator. Safety coordinator. And then it really focuses on the Tomahawk and Neil Armstrong levels. Again, this one says in development because we are looking at what does this system look like for increasing safety? Is it
Student monitors, is it, I don't know, it's like, we know that the kids are reporting how they're feeling, but we need to sit down and actually bring some people together, talk about how we begin to actually impact that. I just don't know what it is yet. I don't know if it's more people, if it's more I don't know yet, but we know we've got to partition some money to be able to do that work. We just don't know exactly what it is yet.
the other thing that's included in this is a 0.5 dean for Tomahawk. Their dean right now is only 0.5. And they've been using other funds to be able to make it a 1.0 and to be able to guarantee that that's a 1.0 year after year. So the two known components in that is Tomahawk Dean 0.5, we've already hit go on, and then the increasing PAT. The rest is that amount for specifically NAMS, Neil Armstrong, and trying to build a system over there to help students feel safe.
I was thinking of when we were in the strategic plan and we had our discussion about safety at the high school, and you heard that feedback from the students. I think that might be one way of really developing a system based on their feedback about how they feel safe or not safe in a building. Being able to listen to them about what things they think would help them feel safe in a building. Right. Like the whole restroom thing that we were talking about. So just a comment.
No, agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question. So under creating safe school environments, so that includes an SRO? Is that under that or
That's already
that's
budgeted.
separate?
Yeah, it's already budgeted.
That's budgeted already. So that would be an employee position?
I don't know yet. I mean, there's a couple of different things that you could do there. You could provide another dean. You could provide some administration. You could do security monitors. We could do some upgrades to bathrooms. I mean, there's a lot of different ways we could go there. We just don't really know what the most impactful thing is yet. And so that's why we need to sit and kind of meet and talk and figure out kind of where we want to go with it.
So how did you come up with that figure?
You know,
36,000.
So part of that's PAT, and we know what that amount is.
Okay.
The other part is really it's a guess, but I'm not even saying that's the right guess.
I was just curious.
No, I wish I had. Again, I think we were thinking in terms of people originally, but I'm still not sure what's going to be the most effective, like putting more people in the halls. That may be the answer. I don't know yet.
Is technology in here also? The safety precautions that people are putting into schools now?
It's already budgeted for that.
Yeah.
So we have in the bond, we have safety and security budget in our bond. We've been working with a safety and security committee. We started back in January to talk about how do we invest these bond funds into safety and security. And we're talking access controls, cameras, it's camera expansion, ADA access to there's
Fencing.
to fencing, to landscaping. So we've been doing all of these assessments all year. We're just about ready to start, and we've been identifying budgets for each one based on those assessments. We're just about ready to come back together and say, okay, here's what we found, here's what we can afford, and try to identify those priority areas. But we're rolling on investing, potentially starting late spring on our safety and security updates from the bond, physical updates.
Is there any federal dollars from Biden administration to help with this?
So it's interesting you say that because we've heard lots of stories about this.
Yeah, that, I've read a couple articles.
We're not seeing, I'm
You're
not
not
seeing the actual payoff in actual applications. I know we were looking at, some different things with the bond, but we haven't seen that part yet. We would certainly be open to it, but I haven't seen it. And I'm forgetting what they call that, but it's the system infrastructure grants and such. I'm just not seeing it yet.
But we are always looking at opportunities to
Right.
increase what we can do with what we have. So, yeah, I mean, if you guys hear or see anything, we've been looking into what we have found. The couple that I have found, we didn't qualify for, but that doesn't mean there could be others out there that I just haven't seen yet.
Were they federal or state?
That'd be federal.
The two I seen were federal, yeah. But again, I mean, we're still, anytime we can maximize what we're doing, we would.
I know you.
So, and then lastly, on this slide, I wanted to combine kind of that long-term resiliency in that placeholder. As you've seen in the conversation tonight, we are in the planning phase for a lot of things. A lot of things on here, what is the early literacy gonna cost us, the family resource center implementation, creating safe school environments, and those processes, along with all of the other things that we're already doing and have moving on the strategic plan. So we wanted to make sure that we're holding a little bit to the side to be able to make sure we're looking for long-term financial resiliency and we are able to implement plans that we come up with through these processes. So
Long-term.
long-term. Yeah.
I guess with all this, we're at a point right now, Mark and I were having a discussion about how much money has been infused over the last 3 or 4 years. Is just being purposeful about how we're investing our money and being able to quantify whether it's making a difference or not. To be able to come back with a year later and say, were we successful or were we not successful? If we weren't, then what are we gonna do differently? That whole kind of begin with the end in mind and then work toward that goal and then reevaluate it as you move forward, no matter how much money you invest. Are the kids feeling safe at the high school? How are you going to quantify that? And then what's your investments to make that happen? But, it's a lot of cash in the system in a short period of time. And it always, like we were talking about, Mark and I today, it always concerns me knowing where we came from early on, many years ago, that we had a lot of cash and then it all went away. It was like, woo. So I just didn't know.
And there's always that risk that in the next legislative session, something happened, a recession. And that's where, like, when we were first starting to look at, and I'm probably getting too far down off, but when we were starting to look at this and I was like, we need to figure out how we're gonna do this, what we're gonna do. And then, we start looking at all the needs and then everybody wants, and it's like, no, let's slow down, let's stop, let's think about what we're doing. And make sure we're being really planful and intentional about this, because this isn't, I mean, it's a one-time opportunity. We've got to be very tactful about it. We've got to be very thoughtful about it. So
And the resiliency is probably one of the biggest, at least as far as I'm concerned, that there's money somewhere that if everything falls apart, at least backfill some of it.
So that was all that we had for you tonight. Considering like our strategic plan, what you guys have heard tonight, the investments that we're already working on. What areas are you excited about? Or what areas do you feel we might be missing? There might be a gap in our strategic plan that we're not looking at.
One of the things that I think about is, our enrollment at kindergarten level is low. Part of that can be the demographics in Forest Grove communities. There's a lot of apartment buildings going in that, and there are some kids are going to Roy, they're going to Verboort, they're going to, there's a bunch of, I mean, Pacific has their program through fourth grade and that is. So is there something that we could do different to attract kids? You know, like, is there a different way to reach out? Is you know, school is the same way it was when I went to school. I mean, you know, and I know this is talking outside the box and that, but how do we make ourselves attractive? You know, in the short term, we're really pretty plugged in where we're at right now, but is there something where we could offer a STEM school or some kind of other hands-on alternative school? The success at the community school has been pretty wonderful. We've had wonderful student reps from the community school. But I think that I think we have to think of what can we do? It doesn't matter if we're not Amazon, we're not Microsoft, we're not Apple, but they're continually looking on how they can, go forward and get more customers in that. And our students are our customers in that. And we do need that student in our building to get that income from Salem. So it's not something that you can answer today, but is there something that we could do that would attract families and kids if we offered another alternative? Because all kids do not fit in that box. So I know for this year, but I really, I've been on the board for a while, and I just think that we need to look at all the options for our kids. I mean, I always talk about reading and dyslexia, but our special ed kids, they need other options. The kids at the community school, some of those kids really wouldn't fit in the regular ed programs at the elementary level. They, because they're doing so many things, and I don't want to compete against the community school, but I would like us to start thinking like, 5 years, 10 years, what can we look at that could attract the students, but also meet the needs of the students and the next generation of jobs, et cetera.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big.
The school option, definitely, we wrote it down, but I do want to just make sure that people understand on the kindergarten. We actually don't know what our numbers are right now because until we see them, especially with kindergarten, until we see them, we never quite know. And then two, the birth rates are lower across Washington County. So we're actually expecting lower kindergarten grade levels coming up here. I don't know what that will look like, but there's some of this that we should just expect going forward over the next couple of years. That isn't to say that the school options, like making our district attractive, our pre-K and the rest for kids, for parents to come to us. Yes.
Well, I do know there's a wait list at Verboort. There's a wait list at Pacific. There's a wait list at different facilities. And could we somehow find, I don't know. And I guess maybe ask some of these parents, like, I don't want to take away from Pacific University's program there, but they go, K through. Is it preschool through fourth now? I think it is. I think it's pre-K through fourth, yeah. So I don't want to compete against them, but I also know that we have to be looking ahead.
I would just say I'll answer this later.
Yeah.
There's a lot here.
We threw a
There are
lot
some
at you.
things. There are some things.
And we have time to give us feedback. So, yep.
Well, I'll take Mark's answer there. But the other point was, communicating to the community as this is going in a way that people who aren't education people can understand. And the one thing that jumped out to me was the class size discussion, and that's what you hear sometimes from people, like, why aren't we just you know, and I think that was, I know the magic number for that at the younger grades is keeping those class sizes low. But Brad's point, you made two really good points that I agree with, is when we're doing that, I mean, there's plenty of data in the lower grades to show how that does affect student achievement, regardless of the quality of the teacher even, but the second piece is the quality of the teacher. Making sure that we're communicating to the community, like, this is where we're focused on classes and why, and here's the outcomes that we see. I think that information is already there, but somehow finding a way communication wise to get it out to people that are still out on the Facebook. I got someone called me and said, on Facebook, why aren't you guys talking about the growth and the apartments going up? And I said, what? Have you not been paying attention to the bond? We're doing it, you know, but somehow communicating that piece. And the other thing I'm really excited about is the focus on the instruction and learning piece. And I mean, Eileen spoke to how overwhelming it is to think about starting to break down what makes good teaching and somehow communicating that to teachers. And that alone, I don't, you know, when you're seeing people asking to prioritize where money is spent, somehow also being able to communicate to the community, like, this is why we're not having it, and we're not putting it all in this one bucket, because when we do these things, we see this with, I mean, that my husband's a teacher, and he will tell you he loves when the middle school class size is 30 or under, like it's a palpable difference. But then I will say to him, well, but you know, the research shows that kids in your class, when you have 38, learn just as much. And he's like, don't tell me that, you know, as a teacher. I mean, so you want to honor what the teachers need, but you also want to make sure that if the instruction is strong, those numbers can change. So it's difficult to communicate. That.
Yeah,
So
we
then
wanna-
I was gonna just wait, Mark, like, you're like, just wait, and then here I go. But that's what I'm excited about. And then since I'm going, the last piece is, I'm really excited that Nate's here, but you also spoke to this, Brad, about somehow if you're doing the survey, we're starting to find a way to do some kind of student stakeholder needs assessment. We did something very similar in Hillsborough, and I personally interviewed about 1,500 middle and high school kids over the course of a year, like paper things, video things, and we got information from that was not what you get on your typical surveys, but we also designed what we wanted to know. So if we are getting that feedback on the safety, this last piece and objective 2 about what are the student interests, and this comes back to the waiver discussion, you know, senior year, Val mentioned like there's not much they're taking, so that could be a good space for the financial class where there is space. What would seniors and juniors like to see in that space, even if it, quote, wasn't required, but even if our district, quote, we did require because we can, what are those things that they are saying we want to see that? I think the world is moving a little bit faster than even what we can do with curriculum instruction. So how do we get kids now saying, would they come back senior year for a seminar once every 2 weeks if it was on how to buy a car or how to, you know, an expansion of what are those things? So I think finding a way with some of that funding now to set a system up where you're having real-time feedback so you can adjust the instruction.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's it.
And the 38, sometimes it's not just about instruction, it's about building relationships with kids. And it's a lot easier to build a relationship with under 30 kids than it is 38.
True.
So
It's
that would be
both.
my argument.
It is.
It's so, again, we've been through this whole thing, and you'll see in the coming weeks, we're gonna push out the enrollments and the class sizes, and the class sizes look good. And the additions that we've made look good. But it's both of these things, which is you have to have great instruction, and every teacher has been, yes, I know what the research says, but teachers will also tell you that when I have 27 kids, or and I'm a secondary person, so again, I'm thinking secondary, but there's a limit there. When you have fewer kids, you can spend more focus on them. And certainly the instruction is by far the heavier weighted thing with the class size. So we're doing both. So we're gonna get both of those things. Sorry. Again, think on this. We still have time. We're still moving on this. We just want to get feedback from folks, and we'll kind of go from there.
And definitely reach out to any one of us, Kim or Arthur or Don or Dave, right? If you guys have questions about these, or we'll definitely keep you in the loop on the things that we're still developing as we go.
This is everybody good? Okay, the work session is adjourned,
Sorry, one more,
sorry,
real quick.
not done.
The last slide, all it just says is I will have to do a budget appropriation adjustment. So for the increase in funds. So I wanted to just make sure you guys were aware that this will be coming in the upcoming, probably 2 or 3 board meetings. I'll come back and ask for that. So heads up that that's coming.
Yo, but that's like,
Yeah, way to get that in.
whoa, that was. close.
Okay, so we are now adjourned at 6:45.
I'm just waiting for like, just remember.
I think we're good.
Oh, good, okay.
Ready, David? I think we're good.
Thanks so much. David, we appreciate you. Most of us do. Okay, the August 28th, 2023 Forest Grove School District Board of Directors meeting is called to order at 7:07, no, 6:55. I can't see that clock, sorry, 6:55 p.m. Roll call of board members present. Christy Cocky. Here. Brad Navarro.
Here.
Mark Everett. Here. Kate Grandesky. Here. And Valerie Ingram, myself, is here. Oh, and I was going to Brett. Nate Grant. Great to have you, Nate. Okay, please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
You started it. I didn't say a word.
Thank you. Brad, would you like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move to approve today's agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. We're gonna do correspondence and celebrations, and we'll go ahead and start with Kate.
Oh, okay. Were you gonna swear him in first?
No, I'm not gonna do that.
Okay. So, let's see that, I know, the Gales Creek, school, community, well, the Gales Creek community had their, national night out. We had a wonderful turnout. It was really wonderful. The principal, Krista, had left the door open because they have the door where the tables and chairs are, locked, and, so that all worked out really well. We noticed on the tables, that it said the chairs that, to temporarily keep them there. And so at our review of how National Night went out, the community wanted, the board and also Krista to, request that the chairs and the tables stay at the Gale Street School for community outreach events. We're gonna have a Halloween gathering, on the 28th of October, and then they're gonna do a bazaar, and then, there's another activity in the spring. So, there's a list of people at the meeting: Eva Ferreira, Sheila Adonius, Patty Jo Gushman, Sharon Parker, Deborah Sims, Jen Evans, Sadie Evans, Melinda Fisher, Joyce Sauter, and myself would like to ask that there's not the normal tables and chairs that used to be there. They were moved to other buildings, but we would like to keep the 3 tables and the 50 chairs there at the school. So, and that's the request from.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else with correspondence celebrations? Oh, I forgot something. Can you guys all please take a moment to introduce yourselves to all of us again, please? We'll start with Arturo.
Arturo Lomelí, Director of Curriculum Instruction.
I'm Karina Quintanilla. I'm Chicas Program Manager at Adelante Mujeres.
David Warner Communications. And Tech Guy.
Well,
Kim Chair, Director of Student Services.
John O'Neill, Assistant Superintendent.
Eileen Flew, Director of Finance and Operations.
Mark Hughes, your facilities manager.
Awesome, thank you guys. Okay, I will swear you in, Nate, just in a little bit, but before I do you have any, a representative report you'd like to share with us, anything that's going on, or?
Correct. I don't really have a lofty report or anything. I haven't been able to meet my cabinet or like my executive board at all, but we will have orientation training on August 31st, which is pretty exciting. And then freshman orientation will be on September 5th. So we're kind of getting things set up and we're gonna come and help the teachers set up the rooms and stuff. So we're just kind of getting ready for the next year.
Awesome, perfect. Sounds great, thanks. And I will turn it over to Superintendent Parker.
You have with you the calendar notes, so we're gonna just kind of collapse that into my couple of things I want you to just notice. One is that we've got board retreat is tomorrow morning, staff social at the high school on the backside of the cafeteria. Joe and Marianne Guerra are going to barbecue up a feast. We've got some vegetarian options. You're all invited. This year I kind of canceled, I don't know, cancel is the wrong word. We had so much professional learning we needed to do around the literacy adoption, some of these pieces that bringing everybody together for that half day in the morning, we needed it for learning time. So I gave that back to the teaching and learning group and said, we'll figure out another way to kind of bring people together. And so this barbecue is kind of our way of the beginning of the year, trying to get people. No agenda, there's no speeches, it's just gonna be barbecue and kind of welcoming everybody. Corn roast is coming up on September 16th, that's earlier than normal too, I'm gonna have to get my speech ready. We don't have a couple of the back to school nights, we'll try and get the others on here too, but right now we only saw a couple on the listing. Last Thursday and Friday, we had our new teacher in service. 2 days with them, it's a lot of information. Some of it's like insurance, lots of information coming at them. This year, we really tried to work hard to make it interactive and engaging. The second day, we spent almost probably half the day on instruction. That was a lot of fun. Got people up and moving and really tried to connect with their why. Like, it's one thing to have the mechanical technique of teaching, but there's the art form too that we wanted to connect folks into. I really appreciate everyone who worked on that, Kim and Eileen, and David and Arturo. It was a lot of, we did exit tickets. We got pretty good feedback again. Got some things that we want to change. Mostly the more we have them sit, the less they, and try and get them back into their classroom. So it was good turnout, and it was a good improvement this year. Friday night football. This Friday is the first home football game against Century, I believe is where we're at. So I'm looking forward to starting. I was out in the gym watching volleyball practice, and that was
They're good. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good year.
They had a tournament this weekend and they're the champions. They went 3-0 and they never lost a set. And they have a freshman outside hitter who was amazing. Wow, super fun to watch. I highly recommend. Go check it out.
Have a sophomore left-handed setter who's, it's gonna be fun. CLC grant, we did get it. We're gonna be meeting here in the next week to kind of bring together the people who were involved with it last time, kind of sit down and talk about, like, what did we do with it last time? What were some of the challenges? We've got new goals. So there may be other things that we want to build into this. It'll need to match the requirements of how we wrote it. But I'm just thinking in terms of ELD support, after school, and there's a bunch of different things here, but we're gonna sit down and do some thinking about that. It's a lot of money. It's 500,000 for 3 years in a row, and then it's 450,000 for the fourth year, and 400,000 for the fifth year. So again, this is really excited to be working with this again. I think it'll be great, especially since that student engagement piece is, one of our big important things that we're working around. Wanted to also just talk about bond work. We're starting school this summer with a really active summer for the bond. We both tracks got redone. Dams actually, they couldn't save the underlayment, so they had to redo the whole track. Tom McCall, I think they had a little bit more to work with, but both of those tracks have redone. They're still working. There'll be fencing going in. We're still working on advanced what the center of the track is going to look like and how useful that might be.
So, may I interrupt real quick? So are they gonna be able to use that space when school starts?
Yes and no. So I think Tom McCall is yes. I think NAMS is we're close on. Oh, we're good. The Tom McCall East gym floor was completely rebuilt and the ventilation under the floor was fixed. So we kind of know why it worked. And so that whole piece is often, it'll be done. I think they're, yeah. All right. We put 20-year roof coatings on Gales Creek, Fern Hill Elementary, Tom McCall, East and West. And Taylor Way above the calc space got a 20-year roof coating. The 1996 addition to the high school got a new 20-year. So we're 20 years now where we should not have roofing problems there. We added all new air conditioning to Echo Shaw. It was a little bit of a, kind of took us a while to get a solution that works, but that building will now be air conditioned. Some of our other buildings, we redid the air conditioning that's already there. Inadequate, but there is some air conditioning, like Dilly, I think it's the cafeteria, the office area, and the library. Yeah, so those got redone. We didn't get into the classrooms yet, but those are all still things that we're working on. But Dilly, Tom McCall, East and West, those air conditioning pieces got redone. There's a bunch of other bond things going on, but I just want to give a shout out first to our Cornerstone, our project management team. They're doing a great job with our larger projects. But our facilities department and Eileen and Mark, they've also, we're managing a lot of this ourselves. So we're saving by not having to push this through the consultants to do like the roof projects were all managed by Mark and by Eileen, which means our money goes farther. And I just want to highlight that because I think it's important for folks to know that where we can, we're making this money go as far as we can. Next week is the start of school. So next Tuesday, we have grades 5, 7, and 9. Wednesday is basically all the other grades except kindergarten. And then on Friday, Friday, let's just stick with that. Friday will be kindergarten, and then they're doing September 11th will be the pre-K. So that's kind of the lineup, but everything starts to flow next week. And that was a lot, sorry.
I'll just add in that the volleyball team is also playing Thursday at home versus Jesuit. It's gonna be a tough match, so you guys can spread the word. You come watch them, cheer them on, they love that. Okay, Kathy, do we have any unscheduled public hearings? None. Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent agenda a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. At this time, Nate, would you like to join me down in front and we'll swear you in?
Yeah, we should have them off. I'll say it, and then you're gonna repeat after me, and we'll install that to Oregon. And then you can read to Oregon. And then we'll go.
We found you use the microphone. She's got a microphone.
I got my microphone. I, Nathaniel Pratt, will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the state of Oregon.
I, Nathaniel Pratt, will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the state of Oregon and will.
And will discharge the duties of student representative to the Forest Grove School District Board to the best of my ability.
And will discharge the duties of student representative to the Forest Grove School District Board to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Got it, David?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
That was our only presentation.
Now we have some action items, but almost. Okay, first action item is gonna be presented by our girl. And we're gonna discuss further about the LMP Chicas contract.
Good evening, board. We're here to talk about Adelante Chicas, but as you know, Adelante Mujeres is a cornerstone of our community here in Forest Grove, a longtime partner that we very much value and respect. And so Chicas has been a program that has been longstanding with us, started in Forest Grove as a pilot. And so we're here to re-up that commitment, that agreement, that contract with Chicas. And we thought it would be great to have the Chicas coordinator here to kind of talk to us about what the plans are for this year, what we're looking to accomplish, and the number of students we hope to get involved. And so Carmen Quintanilla is here, and I'm going to turn it over to her to speak a little bit more about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So I presented to you all just a few months ago, so I know you heard a whole spiel. I just wanted to let you know some of the great activities that we did this past year and let you know what we're hoping to bring to you this year as well. So we were able to serve 188 students from Forest Grove School District this last year. We offered 61 bilingual sessions through the 6 different schools. We do have 7 sites currently, with Tomahawk having 2 sessions. We are also serving Cornelius, Echo Shaw, Joseph Gale, Neil Armstrong Middle, and Forest Grove High School, in addition to Tomahawk. A testimony from our Forest Grove High School facilitator. She said, the Chicas have been such a wonderful group of students to work with. They consistently bring good humor and great energy into our sessions, and they make facilitating the program curriculum such a pleasure. Students learn life skills such as identifying dashboard warning lights and the process of renting an apartment, as well as the importance of a balanced diet. They ask great questions and collaborate well, and I'm proud to witness their growth over the past year. So those items that she mentioned are part of our curriculum that we just piloted this past year. One of those sections is Adulting 101, which the high school students were very excited about. Another component that we added this past year that we're very excited about is the STEM. This year we piloted original STEM content and provided 2 STEM-related sessions at each of the schools to inspire and encourage Latina youth to pursue and thrive in STEM-related higher education and career. We plan to continue that this year, and in addition to those STEM sessions, we're also offering ecological excursion series. So we offered various outdoor field trips throughout the school year and summer, seeking to foster a stronger connection between Latina youth and the environment. We offered snowshoeing, hiking, fishing workshops, a partner paddle, and a coast trip that we did over the summer. We're hoping to continue all of those this year as well. We had 14 seniors who participated in the program. All of those seniors who participated regularly with us went on to graduate, and most of them enrolled in college. Most of them, it looks like are going to the University of Oregon, as well as Pacific University, UCC, and Portland State. They're studying psychology, political science, biochemistry, health science, business management, among others. And we had a valedictorian, several honors diplomas, AP honors, and several scholarship awardees. That's good for you all. So we're very excited to continue this programming with you all. We did, like I said, have 100% of those active 12th grade participants graduate from high school, hoping to continue that. 93% of them are enrolled in post-secondary education. 77% of our participants reported that they now believe they can become leaders in their community. And 80% of our participants feel more excited about going to college. This year, the only changes that we're proposing are to swap one of the Tom McCall sites for Burn Hill Elementary. We want to serve more of the community. And we are also bringing a health career exploration cohort to Forestgrove High School at no cost. It's a project that we're working on with the county. We're hoping to bring guest presenters and different opportunities to 25 of their high school students, in addition to the Chico session there. And that's my spiel. Do you have any questions for me?
The great spiel. We'd love to hear from you. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have one comment. Maybe this adulting 101 would be a good elective, right? Okay, at this time, I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move to approve the 2023-2024 Adelante Harris contract as presented in the amount of $78,000. Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, second item, 2023-2024 Odyssey Wear subscription. You're back.
I'm back. Got two more. So bringing for you the Odyssey Wear software. This is utilized to award new credit and recovery credit throughout our district. Did some learning about it last week, got on a call with all of our principals, and it's just a critical part of what we have to offer in our curriculum throughout the district. We are asking you to approve the purchase up to $88,000. We're not going to pay the entire $88,000 right now. We'd like to do a little bit of research about how many licenses we actually need for the summertime. So we don't want to pay it up front and then not use it. And so that was just part of our conversations last week. We want to make sure we maximize our request to you and just offer bring about that amount for now.
Okay, any questions, comments? No?
I'm just curious how much it was last year. You know that. Last this year, I think
It's gone up. I know it's gone up. It's gone up as most products.
okay.
Sorry. Yeah, we can get that number for you though.
I'll also say that what they're trying to do is actually cut costs here.
Right.
By being more specific about exactly how many seats we need. So he's got the 88, but we're working to try and get under that, so.
But I'll still get that number for you, Mark. It's good for me to know that as well.
Any other questions, comments?
I'll move to approve the Odyssey software subscription purchase up to $88,000 for the 2023-24 school year.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Well, not working, Mark.
Mine's not working.
Did you want to start mine?
No, that's.
Okay, I'll go ahead and talk about the next one. Community Alternative Learning Center pursues standalone status.
As you recall, the last time we met, we were here sharing with you some of our initial thoughts around Calc being a standalone school. We'd like to pursue that and request that the board give us permission to pursue that as a standalone campus. As we talked about, having options for our kids in our community is a good thing. Making sure that we are being innovative, providing some choice and options long-term, thinking ahead. It's something that we want to go ahead and continue to pursue for Calc and coming to you for formal approval for
I have a question. So are you going to share with us what it's going to look like?
Absolutely. We've got, with your permission, being able to approve, we'll be able to bring some of those options, what we're thinking, keep bringing along in those conversations as well.
Are you implementing it now?
No, I mean, the choices that we have right now, the options that we have are being implemented. As a standalone school, there's some timelines and deadlines that we need to go through. But we'll be working through those details.
Mostly, we just want we believe this is the right thing to do, and for him to have the flexibility to do it, he needs to do it at school. We need to do this, but we just really want to make sure the board kind of says, yes, we agree, go figure this out.
Thank you.
No other questions or comments? Okay. I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move to approve district administration to pursue standalone status for the Community Alternative Learning Center.
Right.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 4, Neil Armstrong Middle School Construction Manager / General Contractor. You are not Kim, but it says Kim.
No, I am not Kim.
I wasn't wondering, I thought maybe you weren't gonna be here, and that's why I said Kim, but anyways. Typo.
Not sure if she wants it.
You're the one.
Wants to do this one. Back in June, we brought to the board the process to utilize construction manager, general contractor procurement method for the Neil Armstrong renovations because of the complexity of it. And since then, we went through the RFP process and we've selected a vendor. This project is going to be everything from relocating the front office to create a security vestibule, the seismic work, the PE station, it has some HVAC and some floor abatement. It's a very, it'll probably be done over 2 summers and 2 years. And since that is the complexity behind it is why we chose the construction manager, general contractor procurement method. But after the RFP process and interviews and scoring, we had 8 contractors, all very highly qualified and excited to work on the project. Our interview committee selected 5-star builders to do the work. And so tonight we have for you the recommendation to award the contracts and the contract for Neil Armstrong Middle School renovations to 5-star builders.
Any questions or comments, Riley? No?
So I'll move that the board award the CMGC RFP to 5-star builders for the Neil Armstrong Middle School renovation and seismic improvement project.
I'll second. Great, all in favor? Aye. Great, thank you. Last one, and the team. Financial Oversight Committee. We need 2 members of the board to serve on the School District Financial Oversight Committee. This committee meets 3 to 4 times from November to May. And board representation is required to meet the audit requirement. Do we have any volunteers to do this? Anybody?
I think I did it last year, so I'll do it again.
You guys are great at it. And we would appreciate it.
Is that what you're doing?
I'm just trying to hype you up.
It's not working.
Oh, well, I appreciate you doing it and volunteering to do it, because this one, you know, is not really in my wheelhouse so much, so I do appreciate
Mark and
it.
I would love to do.
Oh, great, great. Are you guys good with that too? Okay, great. Okay, so I'm gonna move to appoint Director Brad Farrow and Director Mark Everett to serve as board representatives on the Financial Oversight Committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Did you vote for yourself? Yeah, okay, I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Thank you. Future action items, Eileen, budget development calendar.
So tonight, it's hard to believe that we are already looking at the 24-25 budget. But tonight we have the budget development calendar. These are the legal requirement, things that are going to include you as board members or our budget committee to be able to get this on the calendar early. We are bringing it to one meeting early. We typically do the first meeting in September. But the same, it follows the same process as we have in years past and has us finishing by June tenth with our budget hearing. But I think all of the other dates stay pretty consistent with prior years.
How many people, how many positions are gonna be open to? It doesn't talk about it. I can wait.
The next meeting.
Yeah, great. Sounds good. Mhm. Any questions or comments? Okay. Okay, future board items and board discussion. This is an opportunity for the board to provide input for future board items and discuss or report on any committee meetings they have attended. We are also going to be reviewing and amending this list during our retreat tomorrow. So you guys can think about things you might want to talk about or things that are applicable to you, and we'll revisit it tomorrow. But does anybody have anything tonight they'd like to talk about? Okay, Christy's gonna go first, and then if somebody else has other things.
Okay, I have two things. One is I just want to encourage everybody, if you have not, to sign up to be a part of the Forest Grove City newsletter. Forest Grove has been rolling out a communications plan. The city has not had one before and not had staff, and that was a key piece, and they're really trying to, the livability surveys about to come out, and I think eventually part of those conversations might be what school things could be highlighted in the city newsletter and vice versa. On city council, I got so many questions about why the school is doing it this way, and like, oh, this is on the council and not on the school board, but you know, in the community, again, people being aware of what the school board's role is, what the city does, and where do they interface, especially now as we're really working together. You can go to the website and it's just right there. And the second thing is this is a really exciting project that's happening at NAMS, and this also just came out today. Our city librarians, we have a teen space and teen and adult librarians. Some are in Spanish, some are in English, but we have, and I'm just working with them from a previous project on the city, but we were able to work with NAMS, and the city librarians are really passionate about setting a goal to get every single child in this district a library card as a part of a much bigger vision of how we can really start building kids of all ages using the library. And there's some new things even just this year with that library card. The main one that Lily, who's one of the librarians, is really excited about is online tutoring access for anyone who has the card, and just multiple other pieces that are going to be offered. And they've created a space in the library for teens. They're building a program for teens. They're working with the teen council. So this was going out to all students at NAMS in the e-newsletter, and then we are connecting with teachers there to be able to get them into the classrooms so they can preview and then start getting kids signed up. And then as we do that and build that program, spreading that out throughout the district. So very exciting. Nice partnership.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. I love my library card, and I mean, I think once I figure out too that they can stream TV and movies, like, you know, that would get them to want to get a library card as well. Anybody else have things they want to talk about? Okay, well, I'm excited to see you all bright and early tomorrow morning back here at 9. Thank you guys for coming and attending. The meeting is adjourned at 7:25.